So the other day I was lying there at night and I couldn't sleep, and there were thoughts going through my mind. They were just flowing through my mind, and if I'm being honest, these thoughts were negative thoughts, and basically these thoughts were reflecting on the time that was or used to be, and I was comparing, and I was just saying, oh, I remember how it used to be. I remember those old days. I wish it could be like that again. And just so many thoughts of just feeling worthless and useless and just comparing. And in that time where the thoughts were just flowing through my mind, a picture of an extension lead came into my mind. And when it came into my mind, I understood what was coming to me, and this is what I'm going to share with you right now, because the same power that was flowing years ago, it can still be flowing now. Now, there are times in our lives, there are seasons, and sometimes we go through the difficult seasons, the hard times, and sometimes they're even dry periods, and we can feel unused, we can feel like we're just not valued, and we can also feel like, I have passed my best before date. And this, I believe, is a reason why God showed me the picture of this extension lead. Not too long ago, I was at work and I was cleaning up. I was trying to organize, and I was going through a cupboard that had not been opened for a long time. No one's been in that cupboard for years, really. And so I'm going through the cupboard, I'm looking through it, and I find an old extension lead in the cupboard. Now, this extension lead, it looked very dirty, dusty. It looked like at one time it was well used, but now it's been abandoned. It's been behind closed doors and it's dirty. And I believe God was showing me this extension lead for a reason, because this is how I often or sometimes can feel, just like this extension lead, because at one point that extension lead was used, and you could tell it had been used a lot, and it had been used to give people power and help and assistance, but now it's just put to one side. Now no one sees it. Now it's forgotten. And sometimes I can be like, God, I just feel forgotten. God, those things that used to be. And just like the extension lead, I can just resonate with the same feelings of just, that was then, this is now. Now Jesus, he talks about this extension lead in John chapter 15. Now, he didn't use the word extension lead, but I'm going to show you how the extension lead relates to what Jesus is talking about in John 15. Jesus says in John 15 and from verse 4, he says, "Abide in me and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit of itself, except it abide in the vine, no more can ye, except ye abide in me. I, Jesus, am the vine, ye are the branches. He that abides in me, and I in him, the same brings forth much fruit. For without me ye can do nothing." So Jesus is saying this. He's saying, I am the vine. The vine is the power source. It's where the power is coming from. Things are flowing through the power source. It's coming from the power source. And then he says, we are the branches. So we are the branches, and we're coming off from the power source. Now you see, the branches, they bear fruit because the power is coming through the vine, and then it's flowing through the branches, and therefore it can bring fruit because they are connected to the power source. It is the same with the extension lead. Here we have the plug socket is the power source, the power station is the power source, and the extension lead is the branch. It is the same. This is where the power comes from, and the extension lead, what it does is it connects into the power source, and then we have the branch, then we have the extension lead, and the power flows through the lead and it comes out to the other end and it bears fruit. It gives out something that is good for mankind. Now Jesus says, without me you can do nothing. What does he mean by that? Because I can still run, I can still jump. What does he mean I can do nothing? This is how it is. This is the extension lead. It's connected to the source, but without the source it can do nothing. This extension lead is worthless. If the extension lead is not connected to the source, then it has no worth. It doesn't do anything. If there's no power in here, this is worthless. This is only good if it's connected to the source. Otherwise, it's powerless. And it's the same with the branch. If the branch is not connected to the vine, it's powerless. It's worth nothing. And so this is how we can feel many times. I feel like this extension lead. I'm just here. I'm just dangling here. I'm not connected to the source. There's no power flowing through me. You see, that extension lead that I found in the cupboard, it wasn't connected to a power source. It was hidden away. It was in a cupboard. It was in a dark place. It was abandoned. And so sometimes we feel abandoned. Sometimes we feel like we're in a dark place. Sometimes we feel like we've been put on a shelf, and so we're just there and we have no worth. We feel like nothing. We feel like we have nothing to give. And it's just so interesting because just the other day, someone at work, they asked me a question. They say, hey, do you have an extension lead I can borrow? I said, yes, I've got one. So I take out this old extension lead that I have, this old, dirty, dusty extension lead. I take it out and I plug it in. I plug it in to the power source. I plug it into the power source, and then I give the other end to the person and they plug in their tool and their tool starts to work. And that same power that flowed in that extension lead years ago, it began to flow again. It began to flow again because it's connected to the power source now. It didn't matter that it was in a cupboard for years. It didn't matter that it had been abandoned for years. As soon as it was connected to the power source, the power began to flow again. And I believe this is what God was showing me. You are an extension lead. Sometimes you feel like you're just here. Sometimes you feel like people have put you on a shelf. Sometimes you feel like, you know what, people have said some things, they've done some things, and they've put me away, they've closed the doors. Just like they've done with this extension lead, they put the extension lead away in a cupboard. It's been there for years. Sometimes people put you away for years and you're there and you're in a dark place and you feel like you're worthless. But the extension lead, when it was brought out and when it was connected to the power source again, that same power that flowed through that extension lead years ago began to flow again. And so it can be with you and me. Sometimes we've been put away. Sometimes people have put us on a shelf. Sometimes people have said some things, and so we become in a place where we're just abandoned. We're in a place where we just feel alone. It's dark and the doors are closed, and we feel like, oh, I wish I could go back. I wish I could go back to the place where I was connected and where power was flowing through me and where I could feel God was doing things and I was bearing fruit and people were benefiting from the fruit that was coming out of me. I wish I could go back. But the truth is this, the power could always flow through the lead. All of the things that was needed had always been in the lead. And this is the thing. It's not about you and me, yeah, and where we are and the situations. Ultimately, it's about the power source. As long as the power source is there, as long as it's there, we can always connect. God can always reuse us and connect us. The power is always the same. And everything that is needed for us is inside. It's inside the cables. It's there. All we need to do is just to connect, and the power flows again. You know, situations change. The situation changed for the old extension lead. It changed. What happened was people put the extension lead away. It was once used. People once were in need of it, but then they felt like, we don't need it anymore. We don't need you anymore, you know. And sometimes words hurt. Sometimes people say things. Sometimes people put us in a box. Some people put us on a shelf and close the door. And so what happens is we don't get used anymore, but we have the ability. All the ability we need is there. It's built in. And what we need to do is to get connected with Jesus again. And the power flows again. Now, this is key. The enemy wants you to believe. He wants you to believe that you are worthless. You're worthless. You're not connected. There's no power in you. Like, yeah, I remember the old days. I remember when power was flowing through me. I remember when things were happening. But now it's like, oh, I'm just in a bad place. I'm on a shelf. I'm behind closed doors. It's dark. And so it's just game over. And so we just always remember the old times, the good old times. But just like the extension lead, the door was opened. And it didn't matter what the extension lead looked like. It didn't matter if it was old. It didn't matter if it was dirty. It didn't matter if it had been abandoned for a long time. It didn't matter if people had forgotten about it. None of those things mattered. Because as soon as it was plugged in, even though it had been abandoned for years, as soon as it was plugged into the source, as soon as it was connected to the vine, as soon as the branch was connected to the vine, the power began to flow again, and the fruits began to flow again. And this is what happened with the extension lead, and this is what can happen with you and me. When we get connected to the source, it doesn't matter what people have said. It doesn't matter if people have put us away for a long time. It doesn't matter if people have abandoned us. The power can still flow through us. Now, this is also key, because that person or those people that put this extension lead away years ago, they were not there when I took it out of the cupboard and when I found it. And they were not there when I plugged it into the power source. And they were not there when the power began to flow through the extension lead again. This is just like Joseph. You see, Joseph's brothers, they didn't see the power flowing through Joseph. You see, they put Joseph away. They put him away where he felt powerless. But the thing is this, Joseph, he reconnected. He stayed connected. He stayed connected. And the power was flowing through him. And his brothers didn't see the power flowing through him. He didn't see that. Just like the extension lead. People have forgotten about that. They don't know it. And sometimes God can be using you and people don't know about it. Sometimes God has done a work in your life and people just don't see it. People just don't see the power flowing with you because now you're somewhere else, or those people that put you away, they have left, but the power is still flowing through you. And so what I want to say is this: the same power that flowed through you years ago, it can still be flowing through you now. Even though you've been in a certain place, even though you've been put on a shelf, even if people say things about you, the power can still be flowing through you, because if you are connected to the power source, connected to the vine, the branches, they bear rich fruit. It doesn't matter what the other branches say. What matters is this: are you connected to the power source? Are you connected to the power source? Because if you're connected to the power source, it doesn't matter what you've been through. It doesn't matter how long you've been abandoned. It doesn't matter how long you've been collecting dust. That same power can flow through you again and bring forth rich fruit. Be blessed.